Hi, my name is Demetria, and I'm happy to be your host. I created this podcast to encourage women entrepreneurs of faith on your business journey. Join me as I and my fabulous guests help you to discover how to gain kingdom business clarity and turn your profitable passion into a plan of action. You're listening to the Her Business Elevated podcast, episode number 18. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for listening today. For those of you who are brand new, welcome to my podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I have been a solopreneur, entrepreneur, mompreneur for over 17 years, and I've been helping so many women in business, especially moms, to really find your business passion and turn it into a plan of action. So it's a passion of mine to help other women to find their calling. And I have recently been rediscovering what my passions are as well. And so over the past couple of episodes, I've been mentioning how that I believe God has me in a specific place in my life right now where it's a pivotal point and I'm starting new projects. I'm doing something brand new, but it's actually not exactly new. It's something that God had placed in my heart way back in 2006. And that project is still sitting on the back burner, and it's now coming to the forefront as the Lord is, allowing me some space to embark on that. So I'm starting to have the time, the energy, and the space in my life to see what it is He wants me to do with that project that I thought was just going to sit there forever, but apparently He had other plans. So I'm going to actually do something with it, and you will start to see things unfold, starting within a couple of weeks into the year of 2023. So I'm super excited about that project. Meanwhile, I've been on Facebook groups, different groups, and I've been recruiting speakers for my podcast. So I have had a high response rate. So it's possible that we could be booked out into early to mid 2023. And I'm really excited to start bringing some new voices to this podcast and also my Mompreneurs and Heels podcast. And those are the two podcasts that I'm recruiting for. So if you happen to have something that you want to share and you're listening to this right now and you know that you are a woman in business or a mompreneur or a woman of faith who has your own business that you are wanting to promote and you want to share what's on your heart, you have a passion to help people and you want to share that with our listeners, then if you ask to be on this podcast and you have something of value to share with us, I'm likely going to say yes, because that's where I am right now. I'm in an open space where I'm inviting women who want to share. You have a voice, you have something to share. Come and bring that to us. And you can find out more about how to be a part of this podcast by visiting my website, which at the moment, it's demetriazinga.com, and then you can click on Be on the Show. I created a new tab for you just for this project so that as I'm recruiting, you guys can more easily find a way to sign up. So it's demetriazinga.com. Go to the navigation, click on Be on the Show. And in the future, some of what's at demetriazinga.com will be transferred to a different website. But for now, that's what it is. So I hope to see you there if you are interested, and I hope to meet you and perhaps have you on the show. One more thing I want to mention is the Create Your Digital Products course. It's a course I created on Teachable last year, and I haven't been talking about it enough. So I thought that I should be sure to bring it up with every podcast here on out so that you're aware that I do have that course available for you. So it is an evergreen course. It's ongoing. It's always open. There's no start and stop date. It's just open course. So at any point, if you feel that you are wanting to learn more about how to create digital products for your business, if you don't already have a digital products and you have been on the fence about getting started, it's a very reasonably priced course. I take you through the steps of creating an ebook or creating audio, creating video. Those are the different types of digital products that I talk about in the course. So if you're interested in learning how to do those things, and let's say you have a service-based business, but you just have never taken the time to create a digital product, then this course would be a great first step in that direction. Okay, so I have that available for you in Teachable, and I will leave a link in the show notes, as well as you can visit demetriazinga.com and find that course listed under the courses tab in the navigation. All right, today we're going to talk about learning to walk in confidence of your calling. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I have not always walked in confidence. And as I've learned to begin walking in that confidence over the past decade or so of my life, I have learned so many valuable lessons about coming out of my shell, about stepping into who I am, into my identity, and being secure in that space. And so I want to share those ideas with you today. As I share what I've learned, hopefully you can relate a little bit, or maybe you have had some similar circumstances where you haven't felt that confidence. And I want you to be empowered. And so this show is all about empowering women of faith, Christian women who need to step out in your purpose and your calling and go ahead and do those things that God has called you to do. Go ahead and start that business. Go ahead and up level your business. And I'm here to encourage you and be your cheerleader for that. Okay, so let's talk about how to walk in confidence of your calling. So many of us, solopreneurs, mompreneurs, entrepreneurs, business women, know that we have a purpose. We know that we have things that we're wanting to do, things that we've desired to do over the years, but we haven't always had the opportunities to follow through with those ideas. Maybe life got in the way. Maybe we got busy. Maybe some things happened in life that just prevented us from having the time or the energy to seek out our calling. But we know we've been called to do something. And some of us have started trying to make those efforts and take those first steps in the direction that we think is our calling. And because those first couple of steps are a little shaky and we don't know which direction to turn, where to go, who to get advice from, what next steps to take, it can be very overwhelming when starting a business of any type. And I know for a fact with virtual online business, it is extremely overwhelming. It can be, especially when you're just getting started and realizing the difference between the virtual space and having a physical business where you have a storefront and people are coming to your business and you're making sales that way. When you're doing this virtually, it's a very different mindset, and it can be very intimidating at first, especially when learning the ropes of what it means to actually run an online business. There's a lot of investment up front, both in time and a little bit of money in order to set things up properly. And it can be scary. And so when we're first getting started, I think sometimes we just have a lot of overwhelm, right? So the thing is that I want to help you to see how that in spite of that overwhelm and in spite of feeling uncertain, that you shouldn't give up. And I'm hoping that I can remind you in this podcast that if you're in that very beginning stage of starting your business, that there are people that want to help you succeed. Okay, there are people that want to see you get from your point A to your point B. There are people that are willing to surround you and get you to that next level, whatever that next level or that next step is for you. So I don't want you to give up because you're feeling overwhelmed. I know you're feeling the overwhelm if you're just getting started. If you have been in business for some time and you've got things rolling, there's going to be another level of overwhelm that will sometimes peek its ugly head at you. And it's not the overwhelm of getting started or understanding the ropes of how to do online business. But for you, it might be managing a team, or it might be figuring out how to upscale, how to up level, how to get people on your team. And so each of us are at different levels of our journey of entrepreneurship, but we all are in it for the same reasons, that we know that we've been called to do something. It's an adventure that we should embark on because it's part of our calling in life. It's not just about making money, but it's about fulfilling a calling to help other people with that business idea, that concept that we've been given. And so I'm here to help you in terms of giving you encouragement on this podcast and giving you in some empowerment concepts. But I want you to know that I'm right here with you. You know, I For some of you, I may be a couple of steps ahead of you only. And for some of you, I might be right along with you on the journey, maybe even in the exact same space as you. So I'm not claiming to be so far ahead of you that I have all the answers. And that's not what this podcast is about. However, I do have some experience, having been doing this journey a certain way, this business journey, a certain way for the past 17 years. I have an understanding of what it means to be on that struggle bus, but I also understand what it means to overcome that day-to-day grind and start to level up your business and think differently about things. So part of that is walking in confidence of your calling. And the first thing I want you to do is to establish your identity from your source. So in order to walk in confidence, you really need to know who your source is. You have to have a source, capital S. And listening to this past 2 or 3 episodes by now, you figured out that I talk a lot more and I'm a lot more open recently about my faith and how I integrate that in my business, not leaving out my source. And my source is God. My source is Jesus, because he is the reason I do what I do. So establishing my identity in him, knowing that he gave me a calling, he gave me a purpose. No one else gave that to me, right? So if he gave it to me, then I know that my identity is in that. It's not in what anyone else is doing at the moment. If I look around and I see all the wonderful successes that are being made every day with different entrepreneurs all over. And you're looking on Instagram, you're looking on Facebook, there's plenty of lives, Facebook lives, Instagram stories and reels. And you're looking at the successes of people who have seemingly come in, made their business work within 6 months, and now they're doing great. And then you're thinking, well, maybe I need to pattern my business after them. So let me spend my, $1,500 to make sure that I'm doing all the steps that this person has done to make that kind of success in their life. I want to apply that to my life. But I want to remind you that you are unique and you're an individual, and your identity cannot be established by anyone else's success and their patterns. So it's okay to have mentors and coaches. And I advise you to please have someone that's going to guide you, but I don't want you to emulate anyone else's specific routines and patterns for your life. It's like trying to wear someone else's shoes that just don't fit you, right? You can't wear their shoes. You can't wear their clothes. You have to have your own outfit. So God himself has given you an identity. So find what that purpose and that identity is, and spend time with your source, finding out who you are and how he wired you, how he created you. And then you need to find coaches that are going to help you discover that, right? So not people that say, this is how I did it and this is how you can do it too, but people that say to you, coaches that encourage you, yes, I achieved XYZ, but your journey may be different than mine. And I'm not going to ask you to pattern after my journey. Let's see what God has called you to do, and let's figure out a path for you that will be successful for you. So I think there's a big difference in that approach. And so when looking for a business coach, I'm going to ask you to find someone who is going to help to tap into your specific nuances and how God has wired you specifically in what you're trying to do. You need a coach that's going to listen to you and hear you out, right? If you're looking for that. So meanwhile, not everybody's ready for a coach. If you're not ready for a coach, I want you to just think about these things as we're talking about them today in this podcast, and take notes if you'd like to. I love it when people tell me, hey, I took notes on your podcast and it really helped me in my business. And I want you to know that I was blessed from, episode number, whatever. So I'm really grateful when you share your successes with me. And I measure success differently. You're going to find that I'm really different from a lot of people that you'll listen to, because I don't measure success only by your bottom line and your numbers and how much you made, but by some other factors, such as the impact you're making in society, in your world, such as the happiness and joy that you get out of what you're doing. I measure success by whether or not you feel that you are operating in your calling, right? So success does not have to be just money, but I do want you to make money. Okay, so that's the first thing. Establish your identity from your source. Number two, stop asking permission. If you want to be confident in your calling, not only do you have to be confident in your identity, knowing who you are, knowing that you're different and that it's okay to be different, knowing that your identity is from God and no one else. So don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just walk in what He has given you to walk in. But number two, you got to stop asking for permission to do all the things that you want to do. All right. So if you're coming from the mindset of an employee-employer relationship, then that might be, a little bit of a struggle at first, because we're all used to asking our supervisors, asking the boss, asking the person that's in charge, can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? Is this okay? Is this within company rules? And what are my guidelines for making sure that I stay within company guidelines and the organizational structure, right? So we don't want to bleed outside of those boundaries too much when it comes to working for a company, because we are representing that company. We're not representing ourselves. So that's why we're so used to, as an employee, kind of stifling ourselves, because we have to, in order to fit the mode of the company we're working for. We are representing them. We are their ambassadors wherever we go. If we're being sent from our company to go represent them, as a speaker, or represent them at a roundtable discussion, or wherever we're going, with bearing the name of our company, we always keep in mind those things that our company would like us to exhibit about them. We represent them. When we are doing work for a company, if you're a graphic designer working for design companies, sometimes they give you a little bit of leeway, a little bit of opportunity to be creative, because, a lot of creative industries will have to give you some creative input. But at the end of the day, it's the company that's represented. So if the client is not pleased, then you have to make sure that you are representing your company well and do a great job for their client, right? So I live in the Bay Area of California, and for many years we lived right in the heart of Silicon Valley. And so, surrounded by Apple and Google and tech companies, a lot of my friends and associates either work for these companies or have spouses who do. And so I find that, there's not a lot of creativity in those spaces where you show up, you do your job. And sometimes my friends would tell me they kind of felt like a cog in the wheel in the process of their organization. They felt like a really necessary part of the organization, but they felt like they held an extremely minor position because they're giant tech corps, and they just felt like, they're just the tiniest part of that organization. But as long as they kept afloat and they didn't ruffle any feathers, then they would keep their job and they would have their benefits and their stock options, but they didn't feel fulfilled because they weren't doing what they felt, that they were called to do in life. And life is short, right? And we have a limited time on earth to really enjoy the things that we believe God has placed in our hearts to do. So there are so many people who, and I'm not recommending you do this, if you have a great position at a company, please, enjoy that. But I know a lot of people have become entrepreneurs for that very reason and have left their jobs so that they could focus on building a life that would be satisfactory and beneficial and enjoyable to them. But there is fair warning here that building a business and becoming an entrepreneur is not as sexy as many people would like it to seem. There is a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and sometimes things don't happen right away. So if you have a good job, keep it, but maybe try to do something on the side for a while and have a side hustle or side gig until you feel confident that you're ready to stop working at your company. But I say all of that to really share how that we're used to the employee-employer relationship. We're used to the employer making all the decisions for us. So as an entrepreneur, you have to really shift your mindset to think that now all of a sudden you don't need to ask for permission anymore. You are the decision maker. So you can stop asking for permission. At this point, when you start building your own business, you get to have the final say, and you get to have full creative freedom and control, full liberty, full license to do things that the way that you feel would be best to do them. You don't have to ask anyone else. Now, if you want feedback, it's great to get some people who can sort of look over what you're doing to ensure that you're going in the right direction. So a mentor, a coach, someone that can help you out. But for the most part, you have to realize that you don't really need anyone's permission to do what you know you've been called to do. Okay. The third thing I want you to do when walking in your confidence of your calling is to ask for what you want. And I know that a lot of times, and I'm not just saying for women, I think a lot of people feel this way, but I talk to women a lot, so I know what we women tend to do and go through. And so sometimes we don't ask for what we want. Either it's out of shame or it's because we feel that we don't want to impose on other people. We sometimes feel that asking for what we want is too direct and it could ruffle feathers, and people can think of us as being too forward and just too pushy. But that's how we get what we want, right? You have to ask. And it doesn't mean that you have to ask in a way that is disruptive or agitating. There's a way to ask. There's proper protocol. You can be nice about it, but you still should ask for what you want. So if I was talking to you at your company as a speaker that HR asked to come and speak to their organization, and you were an employee there, and I was talking about the subject of asking for raises, then I would encourage you to ask, to speak up, to get what you want, but to do it in the right way. And I would show you the right way to ask for your raise. I would show you the right way to ask for your level up in your company so that you can move to the next level, right? There should be no such thing as a glass ceiling. You should be able to know how to move up within your organization. You should know how to be able to improve and to grow so that you're not stuck in the same place you were 3 years ago, right? You want to be growing, always having opportunities to increase your wages. That should be something that is on the table for you wherever you're working. Now, because I'm not working at a company and I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to encourage you as a fellow entrepreneur to ask for what you want, meaning you know that you have to grow in your business, right? You can't stay in the same space you are right now, or you won't have any growth. You want growth. You want business growth. So I would encourage you to find out everything you need to get where you're trying to go and ask people for help. Ask for what you want. Ask business coaches for help. Find things. Don't just Google for your answers, but find resources and people that you can tap into, mentors, people that can help you get to the next level. And when you find those people and they're in your life, please ask them the right questions. Don't just have them on the other end of the phone with you, on a Zoom call with you, and you don't have your questions ready and you're not really sure which direction to take the relationship because maybe you're not certain what you need to be asking to get to the next point. So have your questions ready. Know where you're trying to go. Drop the shame. We've all been at the beginning stages of our business. We've all struggled. I don't think I know of any person who started their business and hasn't struggled. We've all struggled to some degree. Okay, so there's no shame in the struggle. So if you're feeling like you should have been at, a certain place by now in your life, it's been 5 years and your business hasn't moved and the needle hasn't moved, I don't want you to feel ashamed of that. You need to come to someone and say, hey, this is what's happening in my business and I need to know how to get to the next point. I need the next step. But the thing is, finding the right coach to talk to can be a bit of a needle in a haystack situation since there are so many business coaches. So pray for direction about finding the right business coach because you want to be able to find someone who can guide you into asking for the things that you want in life. There is a story in the Bible about King Solomon. So if you're familiar with the sacred text of the Holy Bible, then you may be familiar with the story of King Solomon. He became king after his father David, King David, passed away. And David was noted to be a man after God's own heart. He was a psalmist. He was a dancer before the Lord. He played his harp and his lyre, and he had so many victories against the Philistines and different tribes and things. So he won a lot of battles, and he won a lot on behalf of Israel. Now, when King David died, he passed on the kingship to his son Solomon, and Solomon grew wise, and he didn't just become wise. Let me tell you how he became wise. And those of you who are familiar already know. Solomon became king, and when he was on the throne, he knew that he was in a very special position because his father David had held that position, and Solomon knew that this was a position like no other. He didn't take it lightly. He didn't take it for granted, and he was honored that he had this place, that he was able to take his father's place. And so I believe with great reverence, he came before God of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob, and also the God of his father David. And he asked God for wisdom. Now, he could have asked for anything else, but he knew that if he asked the right question, the right way, and from the right person, that he would receive everything else he needed. So not only did he ask for the right thing, wisdom, but he asked it from the right one, his source, God. And he asked it in the right way, with reverence, without fear. He asked confidently. And when he asked for wisdom, God was so pleased with his request and the way he honored him with the request, how he asked it, the way he approached God. God sees everything, right? He sees our hearts. He sees our intentions. So he was pleased with that request. And he not only granted Solomon wisdom, and he was considered the wisest man of all of the Far East at that time in the whole world, in all the kingdoms. But not only did he give him wisdom, but he gave him wealth, a lot of wealth, the most wealth ever. So he was considered the wealthiest man also in the world. And he was so wealthy that everyone came to him not only for wisdom, but people came because they heard of his extravagant wealth. The Queen of Sheba, who was known to be a queen in Ethiopia, or those parts nearby Ethiopia. She also came just to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and she brought all of her wealth and all of her goods, because that's what you did back in those days. You brought even if he was a king or he had everything that he already needed, you would make sure that you had proper protocols and you would bring him gifts. So the Queen of Sheba brought all of her gifts, her camels and her gold and her jewels, and she packed them up and she brought them to him as a gift, only so that she could receive his wisdom. And she did receive a lot of wisdom and a lot of wealth. And she was so pleased at and amazed at the type of wisdom he had, that she also praised the name of the God that he served and said only, this God would be able to do such a thing. So she also left his country and came back with even more than what she had given to him, because of course, a king will not be outdone. So he made sure to load her down with all of the wealth and all of his gifts in return. So I share this Bible story just to encourage you that asking for what you want is something that everybody has to do at some point in order to get what you want in life. And some of us are a bit shyer than others. Maybe our personality isn't one of aggression. Maybe we don't have that aggressive personality that takes charge, that speaks up, that gets what we want right away. Maybe we tend to hang back a little bit and let other people go first. And I'm one of those people. I am one of the quieter ones in the room. If you get me in a room filled with people, I'm not going to be the first one to speak up. And that's just how I'm wired. But if you ask me my opinion, I'll tell you. But unless you ask, I probably will stay pretty quiet. And so that is just part of my makeup. I have a quieter, demeanor. And sometimes people take that to mean, that I don't have anything to say, or maybe I'm not confident in what I want. And that's not the case at all. I just happen to not have a lot to say until I'm requested to talk. But if you happen to have that type of personality where you're just a little bit less outgoing, maybe not as outgoing as other people are, you can still ask for what you want. And you need to speak up and say the things that are on your heart. So if there's something you need in your business to put it in place so that you can move forward, then you need to get those things in place. Take action, get it done. Get what you need. And if you need people to support you and be part of your team, ask for those people to be on your team. Go ahead and send out those emails and start making those connections and make progress. So that's something that I've always had to do. I've always had to push myself to get the things that I need, because I'm so used to being everyone else's cheerleader that there were times that I would just not do the things I needed to do to see myself progress in my business. And for those of you who know how to get what you want, I encourage you to reach out to people who have a personality not quite as aggressive, or maybe not quite as confident as you are. Maybe they haven't reached the level of confidence that you have. And I want you to find people like that who are women who are trying to move forward in business, and you see that maybe they're just a little bit less likely to get the things they want, and just reach back and encourage them, push them forward, promote them. Don't compete with them. You don't compete with each other. You help each other. And so as we help each other, we're going to be better off, right? And it's just going to be a better situation all the way around, because we're able to make entrepreneurship a beautiful thing for all the people we're helping out, because this is not a cutthroat competition where we're attempting to be number one and be the best. The most beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is that there is room for everybody to do what you're called to do. Everybody has a different calling. So we can all support each other and not feel intimidated in the very least about someone else's success. We want other people to be successful, and we want to encourage that and promote that, which is why I have the show, because I want to encourage, but I also want to promote women entrepreneurs here on this show, as well as on Mompreneurs in Heels. So that's all I have for you today. I just hope that I have encouraged you to walk in confidence of your calling. Don't look back. Don't think a second thought about whether or not you have what it takes to move forward in your business. You have it. It's inside of you. You can do it. And it's not going to look like anybody else. So please don't compare. But again, you just need to be confident that you can do this, and God will give you everything you need. Sometimes He'll reveal it to you through people, and sometimes He'll speak to your heart when you're really quiet, so that you know what it is you're supposed to do next, because your next step is not what it would have been 1 year ago. So you really have to do what, as the Bible says, give me each day my daily bread. It's the Lord's Prayer, and you're asking God to, each day of my life, give me this day my daily bread. So yesterday's daily bread is not going to help me today, and tomorrow's is not going to help me today. I just need this day's daily bread. So if you're in a quiet space where you can meditate and pray every day, then you'll know your next steps for that day. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Think about today, and you'll get your next steps. You'll get a download from heaven, I hope, and you'll be able to know what your next steps are. Okay. I encourage you to move forward in your calling and with confidence. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to talk with you more and encourage you more on the Her Business Elevated podcast. Until then, to your business success.